everybody, welcome back to Testimony Tuesday. I'm BJ Carrick, the Executive Director for Christ-Centered Abortion Recovery and Education. Today I have with me Trish. Trish, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Tricia Schnick, and I work at Hope Pregnancy Center in Canton, Texas.
Awesome. And for those of you watching, Hope is one of our sister ministries that we partner with, and we do abortion recovery with them, and they do pregnancy tests and offer hope and resources to women facing unplanned and crisis pregnancies. Right?
Yes.
And so we are excited to have you here, and let's just dive in. I know that you've had some abortions in your life, and so why don't you just start and take us back to that season when you chose abortion.
Okay. So I was 21 and I had a 1-year-old daughter. I had just split up with my husband, and we had been together since I was 15. We just split up, and I was drinking a lot and, partying and just having fun, and I found myself pregnant. I didn't want to be pregnant. I didn't, I could barely take care of my 1-year-old daughter by myself. I did have help, but I was living on my own. So I had an abortion, and it took me a lot of years to realize that the reason that I started using drugs was because I had an abortion. And I started using very, very heavily. Started using meth probably weeks after I had my abortion. I just pushed all of the pain away, and I just didn't want to deal with it. Nobody knew except for the father of the baby, so I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Just because I'm curious, because I get lots of different feedback on that, but talk to us for a minute on the decision making for the abortion. Was the father, so he knew that you were pregnant, he knew you chose abortion. What was his role in that decision, and how did he respond in your relationship respond?
Well, his first response was to ask me to marry him, but I did not want to be married. I didn't want to be tied down again. I had just been in a relationship, since I was 15 years old. I didn't want to be married, so I told him no, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he supported me. Yeah. It was whatever I wanted to do, he would support me, and he did.
Yeah.
So he actually took me, so yeah.
Yeah. And how did that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth at all, but I know for me and some other women that I've talked to, and I don't know, I've heard extremes on both sides. And so some men didn't want it, but some men just really feel like they don't have a voice or a right to say, please don't do that, it's my baby also. And then there's some women who wish that a guy would have said, please don't do this, and then others didn't care, no matter if he begged her, she wasn't going to do this. So kind of, what was that like for you?
I liked the guy, and but I don't really think I cared at the time. I just knew that I didn't want another baby.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to raise another baby. And I guess he just didn't, I don't know that he didn't care, but he just let me make the decision on my own and didn't really say anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So for my second abortion, I never even told the father that I was pregnant. I just wasn't going to have another baby, period. There was no discussion. Yeah. So I can relate, to whatever. Yeah. So, okay, so you've had the abortion. How old are you at this time?
21.
21. And you immediately start turning to drugs to kind of numb that pain. And so what happens through that, and for how long were you in that lifestyle?
So when I started using drugs, I met another guy, and I got pregnant pretty quickly again, but we decided to keep this one, but my drug use did not stop. I used drugs up till I was 8 months pregnant.
Wow.
It was very, very hard lifestyle. We didn't stop using drugs until we stayed together, me and the father, and we actually have 2 kids together. We used drugs for 17 years that we've known each other, or 16 years that we've known each other. And it was hard. I also had a miscarriage in the middle of my 2 daughters. and it was a self-inflicted miscarriage. I knew that it was going to happen, and I wanted it to because I didn't want to stop using drugs. During this time, I guess I was in 2015. My daughters were 7 and 8, I believe. My mom was actually diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and she passed away. And something just changed in me, because my mom was like my best friend, and she knew that I was on drugs, and she knew the lifestyle I was living, and I could just feel the Lord tugging at my heart, because I grew up in church. You know, when I was younger, I went to church. I could just feel him tugging at my heart, and I just got on my knees one night in my bathroom, got on my knees and just prayed, like, you know, God, if you're real, then just help me, help us, because I can't live this lifestyle anymore. Wow. And 2 weeks later, this church that was a couple blocks down from me that I didn't even know was there, and I had lived there for 7 years. I didn't even know was there. They were having a 4th of July celebration, and I went down there. I was like, oh, I'm going to take the kids down there and see, you know, what's going on. So I went down there, and this lady invited me to church. So I started going to church by myself, and I went for a couple months by myself with the girls. My husband didn't, well, it was my boyfriend then, he did not want to go. He didn't want anything to do with church. Yeah. So I was going by myself. And
were you were clean at this point?
No, I was still using. Okay. I was still using, and you know, the people at this church, they knew I was using. They prayed for me. They prayed for my kids. They were the sweetest people, and they accepted me, and they loved me, and I could tell they did, but they knew that I was on drugs. So in the midst of this, my boyfriend and I lost our house. We lost our car. We lost everything, and we were actually living in a hotel and at my sister's house back and forth. And CPS came and knocked on my sister's door. And when they knocked on the door, I was high as a kite. You know, they should have taken my girls, but I told them to leave, and I wasn't going to take their drug test. And so they left, and that day, that was October 2016, that was the last day we ever touched meth. Wow. CPS scared us enough to, you know, stop. Yeah. But, you know, I was going to church and stuff, and I was having a heart change, and God was really working on me. And so I gave my then boyfriend a ultimatum. I said, you know, look, I don't want to live that lifestyle anymore. I'm not going back to it. I don't want to be drinking, and I need you to do this with me, or we can't be together. Yeah. That's, you know, I love you, and I've loved you forever, but I can't do it. Yeah. So that was the ultimatum. Like, you go to church with me one time, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to go. But we're not gonna be together anymore. Wow. So,
you know, that takes so much courage.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, that is hard, because, I mean, because he might have not chose you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, that was very scary. Yeah. Yeah. He did go to church with me in December. So we stopped in October. He went to church with me in December at, you know, Christmas or something, and he was like, it's okay. I don't know if I want to do it. You know, kind of weird. And I don't know why, but I just, you know, like, we've been together for like 12 years. Like, we need to get married. Like, that was really convicted about it, like very convicted, like, what am I doing? Like, I've lived with this man for 12 years, we have 2 kids together. So he's like, okay. So I called the pastor. He doesn't even know the pastor, never met him, and I'm like, will you marry us? And he's like, okay, yeah. And so come talk to me. So we went and talked to him, and went in the next weekend, actually, and the church, the congregation had decorated the whole church for us. Aww. It was so beautiful. They had a cake for us. They had a reception. I mean, it was wonderful. But the best thing about it was during worship, I look over, and, you know, all of our family's there, everybody's there. I look over, and Chris, my husband, is just in tears, like, just crying, and I'm like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, he doesn't want to get married. Like, he's going to run out the back door. That was my first
runaway groom.
It was my first thought. But I went and got one of the pastors, and I was like, can you go talk to him? I don't know what's going on. He went in this room. He came out 10 minutes later, and he said, your husband just gave his life to Christ. Aww. And it was amazing. I mean, from that moment on, our life was different. I mean, We never touched drugs again. I mean, my husband is one of the youth leaders at our church. Yeah.
Wow.
He leads a Bible study.
Wow.
Our lives are completely changed. Yeah.
Wow.
So a couple months after all that happened, I think it was Rita came and talked at our church, and Chris knew that I had had an abortion, but he's the only one. But I just felt, the Lord convicted me again, like, you need to do something about this. This is, it's still weighing on you. Even if you try to push it down, it's not going nowhere.
Right.
So I asked my friend, I told her what I had done, and she's like, I know the perfect person. You got to call Rita. You got to talk to her. She does this abortion recovery class. And I was so nervous. I did not want to go. But I did go the first 3 classes, and then I made up every excuse in the book, like I can't do it. Like, I don't want to do it. And Rita was so sweet, the nicest lady I think I've ever met.
She is.
And I just kept putting her off and stopped answering her phone calls, and I felt so bad. But then my pastor was like, hey, Tricia, have you heard of this Hope Pregnancy Center? Like, you've been there, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, they need volunteers. You should go talk to them. And I was like, okay, like, I guess I could do that. So I went and talked to him, and they're like, oh, you have to do the abortion recovery first. And I was like, oh, man. So they're making me do it. And I was like, okay. But they told me about the weekend retreat,
yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can do that. Like,
yeah.
I think I can do that. And I did, and that was the best decision I've ever made. There was literally a weight lifted off my shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah. And not that it matters, but remind me who your leaders were. If you may not even remember, it's fine.
I think her name was Jan or Janet.
Janet. Yeah. Janet.
Yeah.
Janet is leading a study this next class that we have going. She's leading it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, she's a great leader. All of our leaders are great, and it's kind of funny. We get so. I'm the executive director, and I lead the studies also. But none of us can lead all of the studies, and so. But every time there's a study coming up, I'm just like, we all want to be there, and we can't because it would overwhelm everybody if we all showed up, obviously. But we have seen, because we get it. We know how hard it is to first off make the phone call and say you need this, or the email, whatever.
Yeah.
And so then you get through that, and then you get registered, which is another process.
Yeah.
Which again is just it's just what you have to do. And it's not hard or intimidating. It's a big deal to follow through and to send it back in the mail or to come and meet and get that done, and then to show up.
Yes.
And it's scary because you don't know these people. You don't know what you've signed yourself up for.
Exactly.
And it's scary. And it's for us on the other side of it. We're like, it's not a big. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not. We don't do anything weird.
Yeah.
We don't have any kind of. I'm like, we don't have any slap your head and you're healed kind of thing. It's just a Bible study. But it's with women who have all hurt the way that you're hurting, and we get it, and it's just a powerful weekend. So
yes.
Okay, so for those that are watching today, that maybe were kind of caught up where you once were, you had to go to the Bible study to volunteer, but talk to us for just a minute for the one that knows that she needs it, maybe even showed up for the first class, because we have different formats. We have virtual, we have weekly, we have bi-weekly, we have all kinds of options for you. So talk to the girl in the camera that's watching, that maybe got her registration packet but hasn't filled it out, or maybe she filled it out and sent it in but she's not going to come to the class. Talk to her just for a second.
I would say it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard, and you're going to be very nervous, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But I think you need to feel that hurt in order to heal. And when you ask God for forgiveness, He forgives you every time, and He doesn't remember. That was my hardest thing. Like, how in the world could He forgive me for doing that? but He does.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is a weight lifted off of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you know, we can. I love your tears. I mean, I don't love your tears, but you know what I'm saying. Like we have these tears not because we're bound by that pain any longer, but because we know we know how powerful that relief is when we receive that forgiveness, and we want you to feel that too. It changes everything. I mean, care changed my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I came to care as a client,
Yeah.
you know, thinking I was fine. I was already in full-time ministry, thought I was fine. And it wasn't until I showed up on that Friday, I had a weekend also, and when I realized, it was like all of these pieces came together, like, oh my goodness, this goes all the way back to my abortions, and had no clue. I had stuffed down so much junk that I did not even realize that it all went back to the abortions.
Right.
So, well, anything else that you want to share to anything at all?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for doing this for people. I didn't even know it existed. I mean, I wish I would have known many, many years ago, and maybe I wouldn't have went through everything that I did.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor, and I love this ministry so much. You know, people will say, PJ, your passion for this ministry is just, it's amazing. That's because I have been through it.
Yeah.
I know what it was. I know very intimately what it's like to have the secret of abortion. And I was in church. I mean, by the time that I came to this ministry, like I said, I was in full-time ministry on staff at a very prominent local church, and no one knew my story.
Yeah.
No one. And if it would have been up to me, I would have kept it that way. And not to scare anyone that's watching, you don't have to tell anyone your story. Your story is your story. But as long as it's a secret, it's going to hold you captive, and it's going to keep you in bondage. And we want to help you to work through that, not so that you can share it with the world, but so that you are not bound by the secrecy of it, so that you can be released. And you never know how God just might use it. So since you've gone through recovery, I mean, a stupid question, but do you regret coming?
No. Since I've gone through the recovery, I did start volunteering at Hope Pregnancy Center. It's very, very rewarding working there. I just love the girls. I love working with the girls, and I feel like I can relate to a lot of them because I've been through a lot of what they're going through with the failed relationships, with drug use, with, you know, pregnancy, all these things, and it's just a great, great thing. And they actually offered me a job about a year ago, and I'm actually employed there now.
That's awesome.
And I teach abstinence classes to kids.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, that's very similar to me. I came to care as a client, then I started volunteering, and then I was on the board of directors, also as a volunteer, and then they called me to be the executive director in June of 2016. And so just one last thing I want you to talk about just briefly is, you know, we get told often, because we've had abortion, how can we tell someone else not to have an abortion? So what do you say to those that say that? Because kind of my thought is, because we know, our voice should be the loudest. But I would like to hear what you think, especially because you get to work with girls facing unplanned and unwanted pregnancy. So maybe talk to that girl and that's watching that. You know, what do you say to someone who's facing an unplanned pregnancy?
That it's not the end of the world. There is help. There is people that care. It may not be the people you think it is. It may be complete strangers. There is help out there, and you just have to look for it. That's what I wish I would have known. You know, I just thought I was all by myself, and I didn't have anybody. If I had known about Hope Pregnancy Center, I probably would have kept my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. so I'm sad to say that I probably would not have. Not for my second abortion. Honestly, not for either one of my abortions. My first one, I was so convinced that I was going to bring a baby into the world that was unwanted by its dad that I don't think anyone could have convinced me otherwise. I wish that somebody would have tried, but they didn't. But I don't know that I would have made a different choice. But no one spoke truth to me either time. No one said, you can do this, or even presented another option to me. And I was just so convinced that I did not want to parent the second abortion, the second child I aborted. That I didn't ask anybody for any help because I didn't want anyone to tell me anything. But I get, again, kind of circling back, I get told a lot, especially by pro-abortion people, like that I'm a hypocrite because I speak out against abortion now. And so do you ever get that?
I haven't personally gotten that.
Yeah.
I have seen it many times, and like you said, I think that we should have the loudest voice because we know what it does to you, like personally, like on the inside, to your heart. Just like with drug use, I think that I'm a good person to speak about drug use because I know what it's like. I've been there, I've lived that life, and I've gotten out of it.
Yeah. And like for me, I think, on the flip side of that, or on the same side, I guess, is almost like, how dare you not speak out if you know the truth? For years before I was healed from my abortion, I wouldn't talk about abortion at all with anybody, but I would feel like, how could I not support someone that was going to make that choice, because I had. But the truth is that I was only going to enable someone to be hurt by the same thing that was hurting me if I didn't share the truth. And I didn't know how to do that. And so I love with CARE and with Hope Pregnancy Center, we want to help you to learn how to do that. So, well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I love your story. I love that you're willing to share. That's a whole nother level of healing that happens. So thank you for that. I know that someone is watching that is going to relate to your story. So thank you for sharing that. For those of you watching, if you are hurting from abortion, please know that we are here to help you. I do understand that it can be very scary to get connected, just to make the phone call, just to send that first email, but I promise you, you will not regret it. It changed my life. It changed Patricia's life. And now we're able to give back and offer these resources and this program to you because we know what it feels like to be hurting from the sin of abortion, from the pain of abortion, from the choice of abortion. So just remember, no matter what you've done, no matter what's been done to you, there is always hope and healing in Jesus Christ. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on a Tuesday, 12 o'clock noon, YouTube and Facebook. Thanks. Bye-bye.